passe l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
Hello everybody and welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour. We are here to you today with a very, I'd say we'll try to keep it short because we've a lot to get through and we've a busy week ahead of us. So I'm joined of course by the two men as always, Chris O'Reilly and Alex Coolish. How are you boys?
Hello Brian Campion. Good.
Hey Brian, very good.
You sound pumped, Alex.
I am pumped.
Oh yeah, okay, sorry. You just said, oh, hello Brian, very good.
Hello Brian.
So have you both recovered then from the action in Budapest? We should start there.
Yeah, just in time to do it all again in Cologne this coming weekend. Yeah, let's talk about Budapest because we haven't talked much about that since it happened. Well, did anyone of us actually predict Vipers to win it in the end? I think we were leaning very heavily on the Djur and Metz. I think we might have given them half a chance.
I know. I think myself and yourself picked Vipers to win, did we not? I think that was my googly prediction.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll have to listen back to that because I thought there was
no.
yours there for you two.
No. I remember I said that Esbjerg wouldn't do anything, and my googly one was that I think that Vipers are going to do it.
Well, Vipers certainly were googly. That's for sure. Whatever that means.
Actually, I think there was nothing googly about it at all. No.
How good were Vipers? I just love the way they played the whole weekend, and they were. I mean, I'm gonna use this word again. They were kind of googly in a way because they were such a pain in the arse to play against. I imagine the way they played was kind of so efficient, so smart. Just like they managed to figure out how to control both games so well. Not at all times, but at certain periods of the first half and then in both games, the second half completely. They just, they were really kind of surprisingly dominant. And I was so surprised after to hear Anna Mette Hansen from Djur to say that Vipers were the team that looked like they had more experience. And a Djur captain saying that about her team in the final of the Champions League is really remarkable.
Yeah, I think if it was a chess game over the whole weekend, I think you'd have to say it was checkmate, wouldn't you say, in the final?
Hey.
Oh God, I actually wasn't thinking about that beforehand. That just came into my head just there when I was. I thought you were going to say something about the Czech players because I mean Djepkova and Kendikova with 12 goals in the final. I think was something that nobody expected, and I think probably to a certain extent, if Vipers were going to win, they needed to have someone like that, a kind of an unknown quantity, to step up and have an unbelievable weekend. And I think we saw probably maybe the opposite with Djur, where almost nobody really seemed to.
We basically predicted that, right? We said that Djur have the squad, but who is going to be the player to step up? And when they needed it most in the final, there was no one to step up. You know, Anna Mette Hansen had a good game. Blum scored 5 goals from 5 shots, but there wasn't anyone to really take over a game and drive them forward, even when they got pretty close in that second half. So I think that's the downfall. And what did Djur do about not having a player for next season? Well, they signed the best right back in the world.
Yeah, they've come back hard. You're also signing, although that was confirmed before, Sandra Toft, and so they have really bolstered the squad. But I mean, I don't think Djur played badly at all in the final. You know, and there were some players individually that played pretty well. It's just they were outmatched, and like it was weird. It was a fairly close game. The whole second half was like 2 and 3 goals between the sides, so really not a lot. Particularly the way that the speed that Jura can play at and how quickly they can turn things around, and they did that in the semi-final. But it never really looked like Vipers were in trouble. They looked very comfortable in the whole second half. Even though it was such a tight game, they looked in control. Ole Ekstad decided at one point to play 7v6, potentially really risky thing. But what did happen is they gave the ball away a couple of times, and Karina Pentea missed 3 open shots on goal. One of them where Katrina Lunde came flying across and saved from outside her 6-meter area with her torso. So it was just things like that it felt like when they were happening, it's like, well, it's just not meant to be for Jura today. And Vipers, even though it's not going perfectly for them, they kept finding a way through. They put players like Susanna Tamori at left back, who I don't think has played in attack all season. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but like she was playing in defense for the whole weekend, came in and scored 2 goals at left back. And what a weekend from Marketa Yerebkova as well. I think I said to you, Brian, after the semi-final, it's like, well, I don't think they can win the final because I'm not sure she could do that again. And like they need somebody to do that again in the final. And well, she did it again.
It was a little bit more definite than that when you said, Chris. You said she definitely won't be doing that again. She won't be definitely won't be doing that again.
Well, to be fair, she didn't. She scored 12 goals in the first game, but she didn't do that again. But she played damn well, and that was a really nice aspect to it. Like, it's just really good to see a player like that in her first Final Four, who's been around a little bit, to be able to catch fire like that.
I think what surprised me even more was actually the performance of Bella Golden in the final. I think we talked about her as a potential wild card, but I don't think any of us actually believed that she had the ability to take over a game in that way, or at least still had that ability. Yeah, I think, more fool us to not believe that. She's proven it time and time again. But that was a huge surprise for me, and a real send-off for her, let's say, top-level handball career with a gold medal in the Champions League, which is pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, I think for me, it looked like she was winding back the clock a big time, because she is one who's always played well at Final Fours. I think with her goals from the weekend, I think she moved into 4th all-time top Final Four scorer. So she's one definitely to perform at Final Fours. But that goal, I think, was in the semi-final when she twisted her body and passed it. That was like really, really, really winding back the clock. So that was great to see. And I think we talked a lot about swan songs, and she was definitely one that she got her swan song at the Final Four.
And is the ultimate Achilles heel for Jura. So she scored those 15 goals in the final when CSM Bucuresti beat them. She was part of the Brest team that beat them in the semi-final last year, and starred for Vipers when they beat them in the final this year. So all of their defeats in Budapest, Bella Golden has been a part of it. So you know the way Kiel sign all these old players right before the Final Four when people are injured? Next season, a team that has just qualified for the Final Four, if they need a playmaker, Bella Golden is a good one to have. Maybe just sitting there, emitting some kind of anti-Jura aura. But yeah, she was phenomenal. I think I believed in her. I mentioned her a few times, like a player who had to really hit the top level like she did in the quarterfinal. But yeah, I think she even went beyond expectations there. What I really am impressed with is that she's not the same kind of player as she was in 2016. She was not like a free-flying goal-scoring machine, but at the start of that final, made this breakthrough right at the beginning to score, and then brilliant from the penalties, brilliant control in the centre of attack. And she's redefined herself in recent years, and it's good to see her pick up a goal that way as well. Good.
Should we leave it there then, or should we move on to some of the other action around Europe? I think probably the best place to start would be with the second biggest league in the world, the German Bundesliga.
What's the biggest one?
I don't know, Champions League. No? There's always there's always that back and forth. No, silly. Chris, you must be finally be able to cream your pants now that Magdeburg have done it.
Yes.
All those years and years of calling them underdogs and the guys that could do it, and now finally they have.
Yeah, and it was kind of anticlimax in the end because they were so dominant. They won it in a midweek match away from home, I think, and it was just like, I only noticed it because of a Twitter post, like, champions. I was like, all right, they've done it. I didn't know that was the defining game. And I think there's a little bit of, it maybe if they had won the European League or the German Cup before that, it would be even a bigger euphoria. So maybe it was, after those defeats, it was kind of a case of, all right, let's get the job done here. And there was a big celebration in Magdeburg afterwards, which was fantastic. And in the end, they were pretty dominant. 2 defeats all season. It wasn't even close. There's a lot to be said for the way that they've built the team over the last few years. And I'm really excited to see them in the Champions League next season as well, at long last. And yeah, it's just good times for Magdeburg. I don't think there's too much to delve into at this point that we haven't talked about the team before, because there's been no recent defining victory. They've just managed to keep the truck moving, or keep the truck moving. They've managed to keep on trucking in the Bundesliga over the last few weeks. That was the term I was looking for.
I don't know. I feel like it was a bit of a keep the truck moving. As you said, it was like they didn't dominate and completely, make it a huge victory, which would define keep on trucking. It's they just kept moving along, getting those victories, and we're probably happy to see teams like Kiel and Füchse Berlin just dropping off over the last couple of games. I think I do want to commend Kiel for actually solidifying that Champions League spot, because they got 2 very significant injuries in Sander Sagosen tearing his Achilles and Hendrik Peckler tearing his Achilles, and Sander Sagosen just absolutely destroying his lower leg. I think there was a ankle fracture, a couple of ligaments gone, out for about 9 months. He has had a successful surgery, so that is really good. But when those injuries happened, I really thought that we might see Kiel losing their place in the Champions League, because Füchse Berlin were in pretty good form, and Kiel had a couple of tough games coming up against Rhein-Neckar Löwen and Frisch Auf Göppingen. Two fairly tough teams who played at the end of the season. And they just did it. They did their Kiel thing, solidified their spot. And very funny, I'll give you a couple of players that played in the last game. We had Jarnes Faust, I think a 17-year-old who scored 7 goals. We had Leon Ciudad Benitez, a German ginger Spanish named player, scoring 3 goals. We had Luca Alexander Schwirmstede with 2 goals. And Ben Connor Batterman playing it.
What?
I don't know any of these names. This is great.
These are all of these guys showed up, and they even had Bjarne Meerhal signed to pop in with a couple of goals against Rhein-Neckar Löwen. So with that type of squad, they were still able to win 42-35 against Göppingen in that last game and solidify things. So maybe things aren't looking too bad for Kiel going into this Champions League final when they have players like Schwirmstede and Ben Connor rising up through the ranks.
I've just realised now, what is it? 3 days before the Final Four. I've got a few new names to learn for the weekend. And how good is that Bjarne Meerhal signing? I'm pretty sure we'll talk more about it over the weekend for the Final Four. But I just want to say that as soon as the Peckler injury happened, which was in the second leg of the quarterfinal against Paris, I was in Kiel at the time. And after the game, I was chatting to Merle Schack, friend of the podcast and Kieler Lochrichten journalist. And as I mentioned, Kiel are very good at signing old players at the end of the season when these things happen. So the first thing we were like, okay, who are they going to sign? And I threw out my first suggestion was Bjarte Myrhol. However, I wasn't so confident in it because then just before it was going to be announced, Merla wrote to me and said, guess who's going to be announced? And I was like, who's it going to be? And she said it was your first guess, and I'd forgotten who that first guess was. So I can't take too much credit. But of players to bring back, of like retired players to bring in, he is a great choice.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to give this stat about what this player, Jonas Faust, that I mentioned earlier. Also, just to kind of give a bit of insight, why do they keep signing these 40-year-old players when they have a 17-year-old right wing like Jonas Faust coming in and scoring 7 goals from 7 shots on the right wing and becoming the youngest ever scorer in the Bundesliga at 17 years and 290 days. But the best part of this stat was that the previous youngest ever scorer in the Bundesliga was a guy called Morten Mikkelsen at 17 years old. No, he still is. Sorry, the youngest ever scorer is Morten Mikkelsen at 17 years old and 252 days. But he's a goalkeeper. So the youngest ever scorer in the Bundesliga is a goalkeeper in 2009. So that stat is from Fabian Koch on Twitter.
So I just wanted to say, just before we move on from, because we're talking a lot about Kiel and not too much about Magdeburg, but I think a lot of credit has to be given to Magdeburg as a club for, I think, probably sticking with the Bennett Wieger project. I mean, he came in 2015, and I mean, Chris, we were at a lot of EHF Cup finals and stuff like that, and when they fell flat, and a lot of people talking about, I'm not sure he's the man up to the job, and there was a lot of pressure on him over the years, and I think especially the way he his selection of players, sometimes he would often go for a lot of smaller, more mobile players, and I think in the German speaking world he would get a lot of criticism from people saying like, why don't you have, where's your Fim Lemke, where's your big massive brute who's gonna launch a few goals? But like, he kind of stuck with his principles, and it's obviously paid off. So it's probably satisfying for him, obviously, that his own vision has come true. But speaking of top scorers, from one pan screamer to another, Alex, Hans Lindberg became the oldest top scorer ever in Bundesliga history. So you're probably creaming your pants now also.
He is the king. He'll always be the king. And he'll keep scoring. That top scorer race came down to the wire actually, but Lindberg came out and scored 5 goals in the first 15 minutes to just say, I'm the big daddy around here, don't mess with me. Solidified that top scorer title, and he's probably going to be doing it for a few more years still.
I think that's particularly impressive given that Walter Krintz is also sharing that right wing position with him. And he's still going, right? At least one more season?
Absolutely. I'll give him 4 more seasons. He'll go to maybe Gay at the age of 42 or something, or join a first division Danish club in Copenhagen. He's going to be playing for a long time.
Gay. Speaking of which, Danish champions.
Pretty incredible, really. It is the biggest talent factory in world handball. It's astounding the heights that they can reach with just a bunch of 17-year-olds. It really is. It's a boarding school. It's a boarding school in the middle of Denmark, which is just producing player by player by player. And they were able to pip Aalborg in the second leg after a draw in the first leg, a game where they really dominated. Gay were really in charge for that whole first leg at home in Svendborg, with Bergerud having an incredible game. I think he had 19 saves in that game. But Aalborg really came back, and I think there was a lot of momentum for Aalborg, and I think everyone really thought that after the draw in the first leg, they would just go on and beat Gay at home and seal their 5th title in a row. But that wasn't the case. It just wasn't the case. GOG won 27-26 away from home in Aalborg. And again, they were just in control of the game. It wasn't a last minute win or anything. They were just the better team. It's incredible. And it's quite interesting because the most interesting part is they're going to be in the Champions League next year, potentially. Let's see, they have the right to be in the Champions League. They don't quite have the haul to play in the Champions League, but they can do that somewhere else. But they're losing all their best players. Matthias Gisel, who came back from his injury for that semi-final, he was good in both legs, but he just wasn't match fit yet. But he's going to be going to Füchse Berlin. They're losing both of their goalkeepers, Hallgrimsson and Bergerud, as well as the new line player star from Sweden, Oscar Bergendahl, who's going to the Bundesliga. And their young left-back, Emil Lerche, is also going to the Bundesliga. So they're basically losing 5 of their best players for next season.
What's wild here is I'm just looking at the overview of who's arriving and who's leaving next season, and 12 transfers away from the team, plus Morten Olsen, who's retiring, and he's going to be an assistant coach in Ringsted in Denmark. So 13 of the squad leaving, which is so they're going to have to completely rebuild. And they've brought in a bunch of players. Tobias Tullin in goal from Stuttgart. But besides that, I mean, it's a bunch of Danes. And I guess they'll just, they'll bring up the next bunch of 17, 18-year-olds. And they'll give it a go in the Champions League. So it is kind of sad in a way that, like, the players they've had in the squad for, like, this season and last season as well, like some of the players that left, like Emil Jakobsen, that now they're getting an opportunity to play in the Champions League, but amazing opportunity for those young players who are going to be part of the team. And, I guess you can't deny them that chance. They've earned it. But does that mean that Aalborg are going to be in the Champions League next season? Because there's also Veszprem, who don't have an automatic place in the Champions League after they lost to Szeged.
Pretty incredible game, that one. Again, this was after a first leg in Szeged. Veszprem won by 1 goal. And again, it just felt like the bigger team. You can argue who's bigger these days, Veszprem or Szeged, but the favourite was in control going into the second leg. And Szeged went to Veszprem and scored a last second, or what was it? I think it was 59-58, where our favourite player, Budget Banhidi, Rosta, caught a fast break catch from no-look pass from Bombats and nailed the dagger into Veszprem's dreams for a title. Yeah, they really threw it away. Veszprem had possession with 10 seconds to go, and Andy Nielsen got called for an offensive foul, blocking on the line. Really unfortunate decision, but it was a correct decision. Szeged went up the other way, scored that last-minute goal, and sealed their second straight Hungarian championship. You have to really give it up to Pastor and what they've done with that team.
Considering where they were as well, like if not even 2 months ago, that loss to Flensburg in the Champions League, they looked quite off, I would say, losing the Hungarian Cup final as well. And I'm just seeing here on Twitter, there's a great picture of Miklos Rosta being presented a jersey, which is 59-58 on it. So the time that he scored that winning goal, which is amazing. Brian, what do you think this means for Veszprem going into the Final Four?
I think it doesn't mean a whole lot, to be honest, because you look at how Győr were coming into the Final Four, best attack, best defense in the whole thing, and that didn't mean a whole lot then. And they had probably one of their worst performances ever then in the final in terms of attack. So for Veszprem, I can only hope, I mean, it is quite close to the Final Four, but it only can mean, I think, probably motivation for them going into it, because I think the whole favourite role, especially this year, doesn't really hold a lot of water. People are saying Kielce, but I mean, it's really, really so close. we'll get into the full preview of the Final Four when we go to Cologne this weekend. We're going to have lots of shows coming up. But just before we move on to that, maybe just wanted to say, of course, Lasse Svan retiring from handball after 14 years with SG Flensburg. Only played for 2 clubs ever, which is quite incredible as well. An absolute legend leaving the sport. And I suppose Andy Schmidt as well seemed to have the longest goodbye ever. It seemed to be like 4 games leading into it. People are saying, oh, Andy Schmidt said he's leaving Rhein-Neckar Löwen. He's not leaving handball, of course. He's going to play in Switzerland, but he will be
That's
a loss.
basically leaving handball, right?
Yeah, maybe. But
according to Tony Girona.
That was a private conversation, Alex.
But one other big piece of news, I think, which is some really good news for the Ukrainian handball fans, will be Motor Zaporozhye are going to be playing in the second Bundesliga next season, and they will be playing their games from Dusseldorf. So if they are given a spot in the Champions League, that's where they'll play their games from. So I think it's a nice bit of news for them.
Reading into that a little bit more, and it seems like a really big effort done by the Bundesliga and the city of Dusseldorf as well to support them, which I think is really nice. And so, I mean, I hope in that sense that Zaporozhye, if they have a team that is able to compete, that they are given a chance to play in the Champions League, because I think that could be a really positive story. And we're seeing Ukrainian sports teams come back into the limelight now. We're well used to them in Ireland on the footballing side in the last week or so. And also they have a beach handball team at the Youth World Championship right now. So yeah, that could be really nice. And just I think fair play to the Bundesliga and the city of Dusseldorf for putting so much into it. This kind of came out of nowhere, I think, this news. So yeah, I like that a lot. Kielce lost as well. Everyone's losing before the Final Four. Seems like the hip thing to do these days. They lost to a Płock team that I don't know where they found that performance from. I didn't get to see the game, but it was a fairly convincing performance. I think it's nice also for Płock to finally get some trophy, because I think it's been a while coming for them, and they've been knocking on the door either in Europe or Poland for a while. Yeah, good to see them despite losing in the league recently and losing Nico Mandiga. To be able to bounce back like that is good for them.
Maybe there was a bit of a feeling of Kielce they won the league. They did what they needed to. Focus was on the Champions League, and maybe the focus for that game wasn't there. So I think out of the losses for these competing teams in the Champions League, that one is the one I'm least worried about to affect Kielce. I think that for Veszprém, they will be heartbroken, because I think they would have probably wanted the Hungarian League more than the Champions League. If you offered them at the start of the season, do you want to retain the Hungarian League or win the Champions League? Maybe they'll take Champions League because I've never won it.
I think now if they win the Champions League this weekend,
no one will care.
All will be forgotten. There's one more tiny shock as well in the Taça de Portugal. Sporting beat Porto after 2 extra times, 36-35. So Sporting having a bright end to the season, and Benfica knocking on the door of the Champions League as well. I think they were did they finish third in the Portuguese
finished
league?
Third. They're not going to be in the Champions League. They're going to be back to retain their European League title.
That's the interesting thing, right? And we don't want to go too much into it. You don't have to be the second best team in order to get the upgrade to the Champions League. And I think this is a conversation for another time, because you got a lot of teams looking for those 6 spots, the 6 remaining spots in the Champions League next season. And going to be some tough choices for the EHF executive to make. But anything else before we preview what we're doing this weekend?
Just a last mention of Kiko Costa, who scored 13 goals in that cup final. 17-year-old, absolute star. I want to see him in the Champions League. But let's see how that happens.
Join the other 17-year-olds.
I would love to see that, actually. go around and just get all the best. They probably have better 17-year-olds in their third team.
Okay, so what are we doing this weekend, lads? We're all going to Cologne tomorrow. Tomorrow being Thursday, so we're recording this on Wednesday morning. And Alex, you're probably doing the most work. What are you doing?
I am going to be one of the hosts of the 24/7 Twitch show that will be going on throughout the weekend in Cologne. So we will start at about 4 o'clock on Friday, and the stream will go on continuously, including overnight, where the stream will be passed over to our friends in Argentina and Brazil to speak about handball there. They'll go throughout until about 8 p.m. on Sunday after the final. So there'll be continuous content, continuous interviews with players, former players, coaches, everyone who's around. Lots of really good content and lots of me trying to speak for about 12 hours. But within that, we also have 3 slots for the uninformed handball hours. So we will start the show at 4 o'clock on Friday with a 90-minute preview special of the EHF FINAL4. So the uninformed handball hour will do that live, but that will come out as a podcast. Then on Saturday evening, we'll also have a 2-hour live show where we'll review, digest everything that's happened after the semi-finals. That one will probably not come out as a podcast, so you do join us on the Home of Handball Twitch channel. And we'll wrap up the show on Sunday evening with a review of all the action over the weekend. And that one will come out as a podcast for everyone to enjoy. But do join us still for the live show.
Whew. Yes. It's just tiring just hearing it. Hasn't even started yet. That's going to be a laugh. And yeah, we have to get some top guests for that as well. And yeah. Whew. What do you think, Brian? Is it possible? That's like, what, 54 hours? No, not almost. 50 hours or so of content.
I think this
probably is 54 hours.
I think it's the end of us all. But look, let's go out hard and enjoy it all we can. I know it's going to be a lot of work all around, and particularly for Alex, it's going to be a lot of speaking. Of course, Chris, you're going to be doing all the commentating there as well, so you'll be also doing quite a lot of speaking, and I'll be running around like a madman, filming God knows what all over the place, from VIPs' shoes to setup to behind the scenes stuff, God knows what. But
maybe some handball.
Maybe some handball. Maybe I'll actually get to see some handball. Who knows? You know.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's all coming up this weekend. The EHF FINAL4 in Cologne. We'll all be there, and we'll see you on the Twitch Home of Handball. Until then, goodbye from all of us.